Okay, I want to show you and compare, actually contrast these two articles. This is from the Pink News. Trans sex worker went unpublished by the BBC because she didn't fit their narrative. And what is the BBC narrative? There's this one here. This is from BBC. This is lesbians were being pressured into sex by some trans women. Now, this should it tell all you guys the debate about whether trans women and men are the gender that they claimed to be has been answered by the LGBT. This is not my opinion. I don't have to give my opinion. They've answered it. What it is that when the trans women are good attack dogs to men, then all of a sudden, they're the sex they claim to be. But once these women are being pressured in sex and they don't want to, now these trans women and trans men aren't what they say. Trans women are men in dresses. And this is what I'm showing you why, because the Pink News I've never even heard of until someone showed me this article. Everybody knows the BBC. So everyone knows that the BBC, which is basically the UK, speaks for lesbians over trans women. They have answered that debate. I don't even have to give my opinion on it. My opinion is irrelevant in that way because I don't need to give it. It's not for me to say. The BBC, by the way, is not Fox News. It's not right-wing tradcon. The BBC is feminist run. So the feminists, the women in there, have spoken. And this is what I have to tell you, trans women, I'm sorry, but you can only be recognized as women as long as real women back you, support you. As soon as they don't support you, society will turn on you. Now, I'm going to show you the most important thing in this article, as far as I'm concerned. Now, this is my opinion. One lesbian woman spoke to 24-year-old Amy, told me she experienced verbal abuse from her own girlfriend. She's not a trans woman, a bisexual woman, you're right, who wanted them to have a threesome with a trans woman. So this is important on the most basic level. For one thing, guys, women always project their bad behavior onto us. They always do. This is always 100% projection. Women feel entitled to sex from whoever they want sex from. And this bisexual woman, this born woman, said, yes, I don't care about my girlfriend's preferences. She's being bisexual, was attracted to this trans woman, whether she was passable as a man or a woman, doesn't matter. She was sexually attracted to her, and therefore her girlfriend should get on board. So I want you guys to know this. This is actually goes beyond the LGBT. This is about men and women, period. Women demand sex from people. They expect to get it. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, of course, that the BBC will back born women over trans women every time. Now, we'll get into some of this article. I'll get into the Pink News. She says a trans sex worker went unpublished by the BBC because she didn't fit their narrative. A trans porn actor has said that she was interviewed by the BBC for its now infamous anti-trans story, despite the journalist's claims that no one with an opposing viewpoint would speak to her. Aha. And I believe this 100%. But of course, this article is going to be read by very few people. Only a minority of people are going to read this article from the Pink News. Everyone is going to hear for the BBC. So, of course, that's the way it operates. The BBC is feminist infiltrated. So the LGBT is feminist controlled. They're woman controlled. That's important. Feminism speaks for women. It's woman controlled. So let's see, October 26, the BBC published an article headline, "We're being pressured into sex by some trans women." A one-sided story platforming multiple voices that claim cisgender lesbians are being coerced into sex by trans women. Those interviewed by the journalist Caroline Lowbridge include anti-trans pressure groups, Get the L out of the LGBT Alliance, as well as transphobic porn star Lily Cade, who after the article's publication posted an extremist manifesto on her blog calling for trans women to be lynched. Do you see that these people, these women, can use the nastiest language whenever they want, not get deplatformed? And as I say, the reason why they want to get rid of the T is because the gay men and the bi men know their place and they get nothing out of the deal. And the women aren't expected to sacrifice anything for these guys. But the trans women are being uppity. They're taking on the female persona and they demand female privileges. And these lesbians don't want to deal with that. In her story, Lowbridge wrote that she had contacted several high-profile trans women who have either written or spoken about sex relationships, but claimed none of them wanted to speak to me. I suspect some did because they realized the BBC was going to write this hit piece. But now a trans porn performer and activist is disputing this claim. Chelsea Poe told Pink News that she was contacted via Twitter September 2nd, 2020 by Lowbridge, who asked if she would do an interview about the cotton ceiling. And the cotton ceiling is a concept coined by a porn star and trans activist Drew DeVoe and describes the inherent prejudice that many cisgender lesbians have against trans women, reducing them to their genitals. Even they are outwardly accepting. It is not about an individual's sexual decisions, which should only I think they mean ever, be made freely and with full enthusiastic consent. See, I'm not even going to go there. All I know is these trans women outwardly might look just like women and be hit on by men and gay women. It's just that when men balk when they see male genitalia, we're expected to break down and just like it. But these lesbian women, being women, they can buck the trend. They can say, no, I'm above this. I'm your social betters. You are not doing it to me. Pink News has seen screenshots of direct messages that verify Poe and Lowbridge discussed an interview on the state. Poe agreed to the interview despite the toxic discourse that surrounds the term, because she saw the interview as an opportunity to discuss the trans inclusion in the porn industry. Look, Poe, you don't understand. All news outlets are anti-male. So the BBC is anti-male. And by doing what it is to you, Poe, it's saying that you're a man. That's what it's doing. I'm not saying this. This is not my opinion. This is the BBC's opinion. They are destroying the debate. They are answering the debate. The average person in the UK sees trans women as men in dresses by their actions. Not my opinion, their actions. Okay. Next day, she and Lowbridge conducted the interview via Zoom. I really tried to focus on my industry because I believe it's really about the systemic discrimination rather than me trying to explain anyone else's sexuality. That's a good way of doing it. Like the policy that put trans women into a marginalized niche for so many years that was filled with stereotypes and slurs. Luckily, the industry has become more inclusive over the years to the people like myself for trans inclusion and getting rid of slurs on trans porn sites. But Lowbridge, she said, kept bringing the conversation back to questions that had to do with dating in the real world, in references to going on dates with people into trans women. Of course, the BBC has an agenda. And the agenda for the BBC is to uphold female privilege over men And the women, the born women, lie and say that they think trans women are women. As soon as they have to sacrifice anything, they say trans women are men. And so the BBC, which is feminist run, gets in line, Poe. Poe continued, I told her that I'm in a serious committed relationship. I also disclosed being trans on any dating sites because with my job, I'm naked all over the internet. He pushed further. I tried to explain that my job is people finding me attractive, so I've never really had an issue with that. It feel extremely baiting and like she had a narrative of the article written before she had talked. Of course she did, Poe. And this is it. People really don't realize that BBC is feminist run and has feminist narrative until they have to come face to face with it themselves. And then they're all surprised. Remember, all you trans people, trans women and trans men, you think the LGBT has your back? No, you're little slave boys and girls to the LGBT. That's why they're pushing to get rid of you. You want to be treated like human beings, and you're sorry, you can't be. If you're a trans man, you've converted over to the second-class citizenry of men, and they don't want you to be up there. You've thrown away your female privilege, and they're telling you that. And if you're a trans woman, they see you as a man in a dress, and they will not allow you to have female privilege. When the story was finally released, Poe's first reaction was she was glad she wasn't included for fear of more targeted harassment from TERF, which he has faced online for years. It's funny, Poe, how the TERFs aren't just blocked online, are they? You know, if I give opinion that people don't like as a man, they'll just block me. Twitter will ban me. Facebook will ban me. These TERFs do not get banned, maybe as individuals, but not on the whole. But when Cage's violent and transphobic manifesto was released days later, met with silence from the BBC, yes, Poe, yes, she felt it was important to share what was behind the process. You know, Poe, this is an interesting article, and I'll put in for people to read. I don't think I should push the video any longer than it has to be. The BBC, of course, allowed this violent manifesto. I got news for you, Poe. If you were in with these lesbians, these feminist lesbians, Solanas had the scum manifesto talking about cutting up men, and that was allowed to stay. Why are you surprised now? Well, we know why you're surprised. Men are always surprised because they're always having their heads in the sand. The claim that trans women did not want to speak to Lowbridge is highly untrue. Yes, okay. So again, let me see if there's anything interesting to be read on this, and I'll see if we'll end it or not. Okay, we'll start with the first one. This morning story contains language. They said we would. Okay, I've had some. This is a lesbian talking. I've had someone saying they would rather kill me than Hitler, says 23-year-old Jenny. They said they would strangle me with a belt if they were in the room with me and Hitler. That was so bizarrely violent. Now, this is important because the word bizarrely has to go. It's not bizarre. It's typically violent. This Poe just mentioned how these TERFs had this violent manifesto. And so you're getting a taste of it. And so now it's bizarre because violence should only be one-way street to us men, to us cotton pickers. Just because I won't have sex with trans women. Jenny is a lesbian woman. She says she is only attracted to women who are biologically female and have vaginas. She therefore only has sex with and relationships with women who are biologically female. Jenny doesn't think she should be controversial. Well, it's been controversial for us guys, Jenny, but not everyone agrees. She has been described as transphobic, a genital fetishist, a pervert, and a TERF, a trans exclusionary radical feminist, since not everyone knows that. Yeah, karma is a bitch. So, but of course, look at the attitude. It's the attitude that I want to show. These lesbian women see themselves as in charge of the LGBT, and they are in charge of the LGBT, and they understand they're violent, and they want their violence to go to men, and they can't figure it out when it comes full circle, because I've pointed out in an earlier video, my man Eric Sheedler said that feminism is nebulous. It can't have any goals. That's why this is happening. These women, they just want the feminist, LGBT to back them from whenever they feel. Now, when they're attacking us guys, when men are expected to have sex with trans women, these lesbians were full on for it. And as soon as it's their turn, now they're shocked and they can't figure it out. The reason they can't figure it out is because they don't think about what they want. They only go by their feelings and what they want at the time. They just know, I want something, give it to me, which was why I point out that paragraph right off the bat. This bisexual woman just wanted a threesome with a man, or I should say a trans woman. I shouldn't call a man. That's not my opinion. I suspect she wanted sex with a trans woman and a lesbian, and she didn't care what her girlfriend thought. Now, look, I'll go further with that. They lived near each other in the halls of residence. Chloe had been drinking alcohol and does not think she could give given proper consent. This is bullshit, because if this trans woman wasn't involved, Chloe would have sex with this woman whether she was drunk or not. So that is a lie, and this is something, if the MRM had any guts, they would be fighting against. And notice now that her bisexual partner, because she's a woman, a born woman, all of a sudden, whether she was drinking or not, doesn't matter. See, it's only excuse to attack men with. I felt very bad for hating every moment, because the idea is we are attracted to gender rather than sex. And I did not feel that. I felt bad for feeling like that, she said. Yeah, your bullshit narrative, when it comes to bite you in the ass, all of a sudden you go, hold it. I can't upkeep the lie. Ashamed and embarrassed, she decided not to tell anyone. Really? Well, you're telling someone now. The language at the time was very much trans women are women. At the time, you mean, what's your name, Chloe? Are you now saying that it isn't that anymore? They are always women. Lesbians should date them. And I was like, that's the reason I rejected this person. Does that make me bad? Chloe, you are a bad person. You're a bad person because you demonize the male sex. And you have no integrity. And once you have to sacrifice, all of a sudden you want to balk. I am not going to be allowed to be in the LGBT community anymore. Am I going to face repercussions for that instead? So I didn't actually tell anyone. Well, you're telling someone now. And of course, I pointed this out before, guys. I'll mention it again. These women don't consciously know what they want. They only know it when it happens. Trans activist, race, lesbian. Let's see. Hearing about experiences like these led one lesbian activist to begin researching the topic. Researching the topic, do you know whether you're attracted to a trans woman or not? Angela, sorry, I'm banging up her name. Seawald is co-founder of Get the L Out. Those members believe the rights of lesbians are being ignored by much of the current LGBT movement. They're not ignored. What they're saying, these lesbians formed this group. They were always in charge, and now they're being expected to pony up, and they're not doing it. And they're, in their opinion, by what they're saying, trans women are not women, they are men. That's what they're saying. And now they want to get rid of the T because the T is being uppity. Oh my God. No, like I say, I'll put both these in. You can read the whole thing. I'm going to stop it here because we don't need this to go any longer. It's just showing the complete hypocrisy and bullshit of the LGBT. And I want you trans women to finally get into your heads how the LGBT sees you. You're always just useful attack dogs. That's all you ever were and are. The lesbian controlled LGBT has spoken. Goodbye, everyone.